Oh boy, the joys of streaming. Let's make sure this thing is even working. Give it a second. That's going to be every stream from now on. You have to start off by making sure you can even, if there's no issues with the audio. Okay, good. Oh, what an interesting week, I tell you. Um, I guess I should say the reason I didn't do a stream last Saturday is because, as I mentioned during the video I put up that day, I was planning on it. Like it was around this time now, right? 3 a.m. over here. And they've been having me get off at basically 12 o'clock, or I guess 12 a.m., like midnight at my job. So my plan was that I would just stay up until the stream started. And around this time last Friday, or I guess Saturday, I was really, I was like getting ready and I said, I'm gonna lay down for a second. I'm feeling kind of tired. And I just passed out and I didn't wake up again until like 9 or 10 o'clock. And I started thinking, okay, maybe I can try to do this now. But then, you know, other person in here woke up and then it just completely devolved. Like I had no, there was no, in my opinion, the only way I could have streamed on Saturday, given the fact that everyone was here all day pretty much, except for brief portions, um, is if I waited until the afternoon or like evening part of the day, which still would not have guaranteed that I would have been able to, do my stuff. It was really frustrating, I tell you, because the one thing I've always appreciated about myself is my consistency. I try to, you know, if I say I'm going to do this day, I do it that day. So it was no fun to think, hey, I can make this on Saturday. Oh wait, never mind. People are here. They're here and they won't stop moving around and waking up at this time or staying all day or whatever. So it all deteriorated. No one was more irritated than me, I can tell you that. And that's not even including the drama from that day. Okay. Because the drama from that day was even more nonsensical than many of the other things that have happened this year so far. I have to say, this year, and we're about to reach the halfway point, right? We're going into June in like a week. This year is so every year has its share of just stuff I think doesn't make any sense, right? But man, this year is really pushing it. I mean, we don't even have to talk about it's a mess. I will say the one silver lining is that my job has been giving me more hours. I've been getting about 25 a week, 5 days a week. Yesterday was actually seven. I was so tired. I started having this headache like around the second half of the shift, and I started thinking, "Oh man, can I please get out here?" And then around the time when I was supposed to leave, they asked me if I could stay extra 25 minutes. I agreed to it because money is money. But by the end of it, I was actually kind of scared about driving back because of just the way I was feeling. And of course, I had a gut feeling that my I'd catch a second wind after getting back to the place, and then be inspired to stream. But it made me a little nervous. I normally, like, in all the months of working there, I haven't felt that bad except for maybe two times. But it made me really nervous. That's one of those another one of those like instances where I'm just like, man, If only my job was closer by, because I wouldn't feel that way walking back, or even if it was just driving a short distance. When you have to go 20 miles and your head is like this, and before that, my eyes were burning really badly. I don't know what that was caused by, but they were acting up, and I just kind of decided to just sit back and get a paper towel and clean them out. Anytime my eyes are burning and it's like both of them, or even if it's just one, unless I'm on the freeway or in some other capacity where I just can't reach a sidewalk, I pull over because I just think it's too dangerous to have them like that. Yeah, it's telling you these eyes are no joke. They will really get you. Oh, the joys of the camera. It is funny having to make my own makeshift, I guess, setting for the camera where I have to like put a book on top of it, or excuse me, like underneath it, and then just hope that I can position it in a way where it's not entirely all blurred up and whatnot. Also, at the job, they have this thing where I guess if you work there for a year, they give you some kind of gift. Sometimes I think it's a gift basket. It's just like trinkets, right? Just little stuff specifically made for you. Like, hey, thanks for being with us for a whole 12 months. And I had a coworker who asked me um, when I would get one, and I said, well, I'm not going to get one, but it would be in November. And I'm telling you, I didn't think I would make 6 months here, but I will be very, I'm going to keep saying it because I'm never, I think when people get too comfortable with their job, they tend to get themselves in more trouble than anything else. Um, I do not want to get to a point where I feel like I just am immune and invincible. So I said like up front, I don't think I'm going to make a year. And I think that's not going to. The person asked me if I'm going to quit. I said no. I think one of these uh, people here, these specifically these chicks, will probably try to they'll come up with something to get me in trouble. We've already foreseen it. Give them enough time, they'll concoct some scheme. It could be in a few weeks, another month, but it's coming. Once they start that stuff, they never go back. I don't take anything for granted. That's when I'm on the job. I'm usually afraid to even just like stop for a second and talk to someone without my hands moving or arms moving, because it's just like you never know how much, like, what can set off a manager who can get mad at you over whatever. It just always there's always something basically. It's funny. I actually have a coworker who is a few years older and has a kid that's like 2, 3, 4 years old, and she's married. And I was just thinking about how we always talk about just when you see some of that stuff and you see other people who have it, and everybody just keeps telling you, oh, just keep waiting, eventually you'll get it. But then you see people who are around the same age, or even in some cases younger, and they have it. My future is behind me. That's all I can say. I don't know. I can't help but look at that stuff and just find it to be rotten. Because, like I said, I just when you know that you've made an effort to acquire something and it didn't go the way you wanted to, you can be left with a sense of frustration or disappointment. Hmm. I think either one is an appropriate emotion. It's hard to just not have what you want. You know, when you just see something and you're like, why can't I? Like I've had plenty of instances where I'll just like watch coworkers talking to each other about, hey man, we're gonna go do this on the weekend, or they'll go and like actually like I saw two or three of them go to a donut place or some other little like market store that was by the job to get like as a group. And I said, man, I will never have that with any of them. Because even though I've had instances where like one guy, you know, went with me to the mall, another one with me to the movie, it's still so far few and in between. Like some of these people take each other to each other's houses and spend a night over there, and you know all types of little like close related stuff. And I would never have that with any of them. I literally took one guy to his house twice, never been in there. Yeah, relationships are so fascinating. But no, the one silver lining from this month has been the increased hours because uh, that was something that had me basically tiptoeing my way out of there. I was like, okay, well, I can see if these people are going to have me for twice a week, I can go get something else. But they've been consistent. The last 2 weeks, this past week was 4 hour, 4 days, excuse, not 4 hours, and the week before that was 5 days. So you had 5 days, then four, and then this upcoming week is 5 days. The one after that's 5 days. So if they keep this up, I might have to completely curtail looking for another job because this is a pretty satisfiable amount for me, at least from my vantage point. And it certainly wasn't something I was expecting. I remember the week where they gave me 10 hours. I was like, oh, yeah, it's time for Justin to go bye bye. I was like, they must really want me out of there. Well, they'll get their wish. I'll be history. I don't know what happened. Well, I said one of the explanations that a lot of people have been quitting. Like I've seen people who started working there after I did who just don't come there anymore. They've been off the schedule, so they're confirmed to just not be there at this point. Uh, they even had one lady, and I remember her distinctively because she was like the one another one of these really young chicks that just has like a giant pool of makeup on. I saw her like twice, maybe 2 weeks ago, and then she just stopped showing up. I was like, yeah, I think that person quit. They're coming in and out of there uh like dominoes just. So because a lot of people are saying the hell with it, they're I guess doubling down on the people they already have, which I'm not complaining about because I said before like what's the point of hiring people if no one has enough hours to actually live off of this? Like what's the point of that? Ooh, you have a job. Like, yeah, but they only use you twice a week or once a week. It's stupid. I don't know. I don't get the logic of it. I think it's dumb. Boy, I tell you. Jobs can be some very bizarre things. I'm not even kidding. Like some of the weirdest stuff I've had happen to me has been from jobs. The accusations that get thrown around, the tasks that you're assigned, the people you meet, just. And the problem with this job is that a lot of the people that work there are really young, so there tends to be a lot more drama involved with it than other places I've been in the past, where it's like 20 somethings, 30 somethings. No, they get them while they're in high school in some cases. Which my thing is, I wouldn't care enough to even have a problem with that. It's just you really start to see the immaturity of some of these people. Like you see that they really do see a job like a game, like a joke, in terms of the stuff they're willing to do to people, with no concern or moral or compassion whatsoever. Like, hey, I should maybe not say this about this person, try to do this to this person. They don't care. Oh well, too bad. Not their livelihood that they're possibly destroying. No, you really see the cracks in the armor with the way that these people act. They show you each day that they're just not interested in showing any kind of compassion toward their fellow man. Serious. This is a place of literal insanity. Oh boy, Starbucks opens up in about an hour. They'll I like that that's really become my pastime now, where every Saturday after finishing a stream I'll just jump in a car and just drive over to Starbucks and get a coffee and one of those little what's that thing called? The loaf of it's some kind of the lemon loaf, yeah. I guess if I could reason, I don't know. I get maybe if I could give a rationale, it's because a lot of times if I do something that I think is like work or work related, I feel like it's not the worst thing to give yourself a treat. So if I sit here and stream for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, hey, maybe I can reward myself with a nice little snack or treat before I go to bed for the rest of the day. I guess that's the theory I would posture, or I guess infer. Because man, when I left that job, I felt like collapsing. I said, "Oh boy." Some days are a lot harder than others. It's because they have it now to where each Friday I'm gonna have this 7 hour shift where it starts in the like latter part of the after. Or I guess yeah, latter part of the afternoon doesn't end until midnight or close to midnight. So what I used to do on Fridays was take a nap in like like some point during the afternoon. Like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. I mean, in the evening as well, 7, 8, 9, 10. But now, because I'm at the job and I can't sleep during that period, it makes it harder to be awake. When you go and stream in early in the morning, because it's like there is no rest period. Like I would split it where you sleep 6 to 10, 7 to 10, 7 to 11, right? 7-Eleven, and then you would be up right just for like those early hours of the morning, and then you just stream around 3, and then end like around 6, 7, whatever. Then you go back to sleep, and you wouldn't wake up until somewhere from 11, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. It was the sleep was cut in half. It was split down the middle, split down the center. Uh, but they've ever since I started having the Friday shifts, I can't do it anymore, which does kind of sample away the energy when you're coming back from running back and forth. No, I think if I make an because I'll probably do some video for Sunday. It's probably going to be about the about Britt, the Alabama senator, and her political future. Yeah, and when I do it, I'll probably make sure to just kind of speculate on what the likelihood of her even being able to get anywhere in a potential presidential primary will be. I don't know. There's so much stuff going on with these people. I just have to remind myself, and I'll do that with the stream. I'll say because I remember the points I was going to make is that she would be in 2028 also scheduled for reelection. So either they're going to change the law in Alabama where you can run for senator and president at the same time, or she's going to forego running for a second term in the Senate to run for president. What I think will probably happen is that initially she'll be all in on just like running for president, and then if she does like really badly, like it's creamed in polls and primaries, or even like polls before they even have any primaries, she'll file at the last minute to run for senator, just like Rubio did in 2016. I'm only going to have one term, and then DeSantis was trying to get the Senate seat, and it was like, oh, never mind, okay. She is definitely someone to watch. I have to say that. I have a really hard time believing that she's not going to end up eclipsing a lot of these other people. She's also the only senator I've ever seen who wrote a book less than 1 year after taking office. Like most of them wait a few years. Not her. She's in a real rush. Speaking of books, I have to say, I don't know what it is. We have the Dog Slayer right here. But a lot of what I'm noticing is a lot of politicians' books are starting to kind of become formulaic, not just in the sense that oftentimes they're, repeating many of the same talking points, but they're also around the same length, like anywhere from, and like usually they're around 200 something pages, is what I noticed. I just find that interesting. It's like they want to write something. They want you to have some physical thing with their name on the cover, but they also don't really want to have to, make a major big uh, novel. So they just kind of circle through the motions, and here you go. Here's 200 pages, like that. I just I've been noticing that trend more and more, where a lot of them just every book is the same, like around the same length, 200 pages, 300 pages. Um, I just think it's so weird. No, it's all just so formulaic. Oh, I'm writing a book. Oh, I can't wait for it to be. Let me guess. 200 pages, 300 pages. Yeah, how'd you know? And they all have books, man. Every last one of them. It would actually be harder to think of current, like contemporary politicians who don't have books. I'd really have to like think about it for a second. It's just so weird, man. Mm. And like I said, it just when everyone writes the same way, it all becomes so generic. Like, okay, oh, I'm writing a book, and it's the same length as his person, and it's about the same thing as this other one I wrote. Okay, it all just seems like what's even the point? Oh, my favorite thing is still just watching the returns from Homecoming. Everybody's like so shocked. I can't believe Homecoming made less money than TASM and TASM 2 and all the rest of the stuff. It's like, yeah, I guess it's such a shock. But the coping was really comedic, where they're like, "Oh, the reason that it made less is because they're newer, so people aren't going to rush to theater see 'em." I bet that I think Far From Home's not going to do that well either. But I bet when they re-released No Way Home, and was it the week after this one, people will go see it. Certainly more than the other two MCU films. I would go see it again, but that's because of its ties to the Raimi series. It's crazy. People just always have a way of getting out of stuff. It's really sad. Like they can never just be honest about, okay, yeah, this movie didn't do too hot when they put it back in theaters. Nope, they're newer. It's like far. Homecoming's only 3 years younger than TASM 2. So when you see a $200,000 drop off, I don't think it's the 3 years made that big of a difference. They really surprised me. And this one Twitter account I was looking at, they showed the theater when you're ordering your tickets, and just like you pick a seat and just which ones are taken have the X on them. And man, there were very few X's in that in that Homecoming theater. That actually is something I'm kind of regretting, that I didn't go and look up the I didn't go and like manually search for how many people were going to see TASM 2. Just look at my like in my area and see how many people bought a ticket. I think that would have been a fun little research thing, just like out of pure curiosity, who's paying to see this movie. I said before, the reason that it's that way is because the Raimi series will always have a certain timeless air to it, and there's a lot of people that have grown up that like them, who weren't born when they came out, or weren't alive, or maybe they were like extremely young where they can't even remember if they saw them in theaters or not. So this was like the first chance to actually get that experience. But as far as TASM and the MCU Spider-Man's concerned, they're whatever. And I also said before that a lot of these movies have artificial popularity. Like when Homecoming and Far From Home came out, a big part of the reason they made so much money is because they're tied to, at the time, the biggest movie series ever and the biggest superhero ever. So it's like, oh, something for the whole family to watch, yay. But you can that movie a year later, 5 years later, 10 years later, nobody wants to watch that again. I'm serious. Like it's artificial popularity. It's when something is released, people are really excited for when it came out. Like they're really curious about it and they want to see it. But after a few years, it's almost like it never even existed. It was the same thing with Avatar. Avatar gets propped up as making all these millions of dollars, billions of excuse me, $1 billion. But after 2009, I don't remember anybody talking about Avatar. The only time I'd hear anyone talk about it was when they were talking about how long it was for the sequel to come out. And now that Way of Water has come out, I still don't hear anyone talking about it. In terms of like, oh man, I just rewatched it last night. It came and went. I'm not even kidding. More people are talking about Indiana Jones 5 than they are Avatar 2. No, it's just it's fun watching things that people claim are so well liked not do that well. It just shows you what true popularity is versus something that just is well liked because it came out at a time where people are bored and don't have anything else to watch. There's my glasses. Again, you give this stuff a few more years, and you'll be very hard pressed to find anyone that's like, oh man, this movie is great. Look at how terrific this is. This film is breaking records, and it's shocking, and it's so good. You don't see that. Put this behind me. Oh boy. Yeah, my therapist giving me a little trouble there. That's the joy of have standing for all those hours and hours and hours. But no, like I was saying, you're not going to see people in recent times like in any way corroborate this idea that this stuff is so popular that when you put it out a few years later in theaters, they're going to run and go to see this. I think you see the same thing across the different series. Like if you went and re-released all the Batman movies, you probably the only ones that people would truly rush out to go see and like impressive numbers would be 89 Returns, Begins, The Dark Knight, and then maybe the Batman. Other than that, I think those are the ones that have the most staying power. Because even nowadays, people don't really talk about the greatness of Dark Knight Rises. They talk about how much they wish Heath Ledger had been in it, right? But not really. Oh man, this is such a great movie in and of itself. And even with like Batman and Robin, people make fun of it, but they still talk about it more than forever. So there's a lot of just artificial popularity for this stuff. But never mistake the fact that when something is new, you're going to see a lot of people riding the hype train, and after it's over, they kind of just wither away. It was like that with the Dragon Ball channels. Like I remember the dark age, right? Of like early YouTube all the way up until 2015. Like you had people that were just talking about Dragon Ball. with no semblance of an. Actually, you know what? Let's see, rewind the clock back a little bit even more. You go back to like 2012, 11. People were talking about that series with no earthly idea that there was going to be a new movie, and that was going to lead to another new movie and a new series. And once these new um, materials started to get released, story wise, not games. We always had new games. You saw an influx of people that just appeared and were like, "Oh yeah, this is my favorite series, and I love it so much, and it's terrific." And da, da, da. But you didn't, where were they when this was when this wasn't popular, when this wasn't the it thing, when people weren't talking about it? Nowhere to be seen. So I said I just wish people were more honest about what they are. As inserted. Okay. There's a lot of fakeness involved with the things we do. I just know that a lot of them ride the hype train. Like when those new things started coming out, they were all making speculation videos, um, rumor videos, leak videos. And I said before, I don't understand the point of watching something if you don't even want it to come out. You're just looking for leaks. Like, oh, here's spoilers for this episode. Okay, why am I watching the episode again if I already know what's gonna happen in it? Well, what's the point? Spoilers for this movie. Okay, why am I watching this movie if I already know what's gonna happen in it? And that's the biggest problem with those channels. A lot of it is just people wanting to, you know, get something for themselves without actually making any attempt at keeping this entertaining. Oh boy, what a year. God, they've made it so difficult to stream on Saturday now. I don't even know how you would mitigate it. The only thing I can think of is if I were to try and like sleep right after I get off and then wake up at like 5 or 6. But even that is still just too much, in my opinion. Because that means you have to get up and, how I said before, the biggest problem is anywhere starting from 7 to like 12, these people can wake up and then it makes doing this a lot harder. Somebody just pops in here, you gotta mute the thing, whatever. So it's just a real hassle. I should have changed my availability. I should have said I'm not available Friday, or I'm only available in like the earlier part of the day. I would absolutely go in there at like 2 o'clock and get out at 6 or 7, and then come back here and go to sleep. But it doesn't look like I'll be doing that for the foreseeable future. I said all the weekdays where they have me until, well, I shouldn't say it because they like having me in like the latter part of the day, the last few hours of the day. I'm not even kidding. Yesterday, I felt like all I did was just run errands and go to and like sleep and like just work and sleep. That was it. Because of somebody else's appointments, you have to do something at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. Then you get back, you go to sleep, you wake up at 12, talk to somebody for like an hour, and then you go and drive over to the job, and then you're there until for pretty much the rest of the day. So that's why I said there was just a little bit of rest and a lot of work, and not the fun kind. Well, I guess fun is subjective, but still. I remember when I was talking about doing this show, I was talking about one of the like lead female characters. Now she had long hair, and she was she had that hair like when I was just like doing the designs. I gave her this hair I really liked, where it's like the dark brown with some streaks, like of a lighter brown. So like you obviously know it's brown, but just a dark version of it, not as dark as mine, but still like just dark. But then the pieces of it that are a lighter color, and I gave her this like really short stature because I thought the other characters are all kind of like taller, including one of the other uh, women in the show. So I thought I was like, okay, well, this makes her stand out a little bit more than Napoleon Complex. Of course, it kind of reminds me a little bit of my grandma because my grandmother was damn near a whole foot shorter than me, like 5'3". So, but no, I always like the idea of the character who's kind of on the side of the protagonist, but they're not really, in the sense that they have their own goals, their own desires, and they um they have some level of, and oftentimes they clash with the heroes, but they do have some integrity, some kind of thing inside them that makes them not entirely a bad person. Boy, writing is so difficult, I tell you. I said before, sometimes I think writing is harder than drawing because with drawing, I always have an idea in my head of what the picture is supposed to look like, even if it doesn't come out the exact way I want. With writing, I'll have like a draft of something, just like a script, and even if I do the script in however many different ways, write it over and over again, I still sometimes just can't get it to look the way I want, like to be all of what I'd like. I'll read out, there's not enough jokes in here. This character's lines are not memorable or whatever. Just there's always something to pick apart. And one day I sat back and I said, I should just admit to myself I'll never be satisfied, because I think if you do that, you're less likely to be disappointed by results in terms of the thing you create and it not being all the way. I don't know. I think a lot of times you have to just accept you can't always do everything you want to do depending on what type of story you're trying to tell. And as long as you get those key points, there's still some satisfaction that can be derived from that. This is a real aggravating tale, I can say that. Man, I can already tell today is going to be so crazy. Like, I'm going to go to sleep at some point in the next several hours, and then I'll probably wake up in like the middle of the afternoon and then try to write some of this thing. And if I write that, I'll probably get, what do you call it? I'll have trouble getting somewhere to record it because people are here all day on the weekend. So it's going to be quite a an irritation. I don't know. Everything is just so crazy at this point. Like when I write stuff, I just don't. I don't feel a real sense of excitement anymore. Oh boy. No, one of my favorite scripts is still the one with the ghost woman that wants to date the guy, but he can't touch her, and she wants him to end his life to be a ghost with her so they can be together. And it's supposed to be this allegory on just selfishness and how people oftentimes will put their own wants and desires ahead of someone else, like to where they just don't care about the well being of the other person, like at all, if it means that it gets in the way of whatever they want. That's one script idea that I wouldn't mind seeing come to life. I don't know. There's a lot of little story ideas I have because sometimes I'll get a Google Doc and I'll just put different characters on there. Like I'll write out a name, or maybe I'll just have a description of what they're supposed to be. Like this villain is this age, and they have ice powers, and they got them from I don't know getting mad their freezer didn't work, and uh, they like this person, but they despise that person, and then I'll just come up with some name, and maybe I'll have a description of what I think they're going to look like. But no, that was one of the things I liked about the idea of the show, where it's like you have a character who is nominally an antagonist, but they're not so bad to where they're like this evil person that just needs to be taken down immediately, and they kind of they do a lot of stuff under the radar of the law and of the lead characters that are, I guess, more nominally good than they are, to where they don't feel like they have to stop this person or really go after them more often than not. Yeah, things are quite difficult sometimes when you're writing stuff. I don't know. I just like somebody could say it's cliche to have the villain to good guy arc, but I've always countered that by saying when you're writing a story, you have to accept the fact that almost whatever you write, there will be some other story that has similar elements. There will be some other story where there's five good guys, where the smartest person is the leader, where the strongest person is the leader. You know, you can't you can't cripple yourself by being afraid to do something that's been done somewhere else. And sometimes you might do it a little bit better than the other person did it, or work on the mistakes of someone else. Just like uh, there's plenty of comic stories that, if they were adapted, probably could be improved upon. I guess I could get into that, but I'm thinking of like One More Day and the rest of that stuff, where if you like X out the deal with Mephisto, you could probably make it a decent story. Oh boy. But no, I've always explained to people, because I've had several like express shock at me reading comics, and if I read a book at my job, they're like so bewildered. I've had, like, I'm not even kidding. I had only maybe two, three instances where I was just reading the book outside. I'm like, "You're reading?" Just it's just this big shock. I'm someone who enjoys a good story, whether it's something that is real life based, like a biography, or a thing, or something that's been written by someone, right? So pretty much, as long as you can show me an example where there's a good story, I don't care what the medium is. It could be in a video game, it could be in a comic, it could be in a regular old black and white novel, um, it could be in a movie, TV show, whatever. And I've said before, I think people do cripple themselves by their inability to just read a book with pictures, because it goes back to this thing I've discussed before, where people just, they really have these like closed off mindsets in many cases, where they just won't give anything a chance. That's not what they're normally into. Like, maybe I'm not someone that wants to read every single Marvel and DC comic, even if I am. But I would still say, hey, people are telling me that this X-Men comic is really good. Let me go and read this. I normally don't read, but whatever. Let me just see if this is okay. Oh wow, I liked it. Okay, I guess read another one. They don't do that. They watch these adaptations that in a lot of cases aren't even that good, and they think they know everything about the characters, and they don't. Oh, I would love nothing more at some point this year or next year to just do an X-Men reread. Like, I want to just start having two or three tabs open at all times that are just different comics. Because the problem with X-Men is that I don't remember what issue. It's the same thing with Fantastic Four and Spider-Man, where it's like you read hundreds and hundreds of issues to where you forget which was the last one you were on or whatever. So that's another problem that I run into sometimes. I'm just reading this stuff. But there's one way to go to make sure you don't skip anything. You start from the beginning. Even though X Men's probably the hardest one to start from the beginning with, because of the fact that they really don't get their groove running until Giant Size X Men #1 with Storm and Wolverine and Nightcrawler and Colossus and the rest of them. Before that, they're just, I don't want to say blander for Fantastic Four, but it's hard not to say that. Like, they're an okay team. They're fun, to just read. I guess nice pictures, but They're not. They're. I'll just say that I can see why that book was canceled. But man, when you get to the Claremont era, it's just classic after classic. It's very rare that a person who didn't make something will come and like leave such an indelible mark on it, but he did. He absolutely did. Oh boy. I was really impressed. Because I remember when I was a kid, people would say Claremont, Claremont, Claremont. I was just like, hear his name a lot. I was like, man, that must have been a really because I when I was a kid, the only X Men I read were was Astonishing X Men by Joss Whedon, and I remember really liking that book, but I wasn't as familiar with a lot of the older titles. Um, because I didn't even know about like a lot of the sites you can go on, and just it wasn't as easy to just track them down. But man, after doing that like extensive read through from 2 years ago, oh boy. My only regret is I didn't read X Factor and Excalibur and New Mutants and the rest of those. It really was just Uncanny X Men. That's my one sign of frustration. But yeah, I would definitely rather read modern X Men stories than Spider Man stories because modern X Men aren't really known for having just like horrendous, terrible stuff. I said where Spider Man's been on a steady decline in comics since 2006 or seven. Like they have really Marvel has really allowed that character to just be destroyed. It's honestly a tragedy. And I'm sick of Dan Slott. I'm sick of I heard the Nick Spencer run was better, but it's a shame. Like I'm not even kidding. I don't know how you can take Marvel's most iconic character and just at every turn derail him, or if you introduce something new, it's not gonna last. They turned it into this like just a version of the character I really don't enjoy. And X Men writers have had their ups and downs, but nobody's been as damaging to them as Slot and what's the other one? Joe Quesada together wrote One More Day. None of the X Men writers have been as damaging to that franchise as the Spider Man ones have been. Spider Man ones seem to dislike the character the most of anybody. It's really sad. Like I never thought before reading modern Spider Man that writers dislike their own IPs. Like they just sit back and they're like, "Mwahaha! I will find a way to destroy this series that people say they like." But man, they proved me wrong. They showed that they can absolutely wreck the thing that they claim to love. It's really sad. And this is why I say a lot of these companies are run by clowns. They get these IPs and they think they can write whatever they want. It's really and if they get any backlash, they go on. It used to be when writers received criticism, they would kind of like listen to it. Maybe they don't agree with it, but they still will like listen to it, right? These new ones, they go on Twitter, they're screenshotting what somebody typed to them, When they go on Twitter, they're yes men all defend them and go, "Oh, it's okay. You're doing such a great job. I love you." You know, these people are not receptive. And there are some things that fans write that I don't like or think is correct, but uh these writers are doing themselves no favors when they start posting it online and they're like, "Look at what they said to me." It's like, "Yeah, but you you guys want fans to be able to write stuff, so are we supposed to just not say things that you might possibly dislike to where you feel the need to share them all?" It's just it's all just a circle jerk. That's all I can say. And sometimes it's hard talking to comic fans. They're not as like actual comic fans, not the ones that like the adaptations. I tend to get along with them a lot more than um people who just like a lot of this comic stuff because of movies or shows, because they tend to be the ones that admit the most frequently, like, yeah, we've had some bad comics. There's literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of issues of most of these characters, so there's probably going to be some stinkers in there. But it's so hard talking to the people that like these adaptations. Like, they get to a point where you almost don't even want to talk to them. Comic fans can go and they're the one group that I will always admire the honesty of them. When they come around and they tell you this story wasn't good, I go, you know what? I read it too. I didn't like it either. Thank you for agreeing with me. Like I said, they have stuff they like I don't like, but my point is they seem to be the group that is the most informed of what they enjoy, can give actual like evidence of why they have a position that they do. Um, and I respect. I like it when fans or people who claim to be interested in something are knowledgeable of the thing they're talking about, and not just posers that come around when they feel like it. Stick my foot up here. Oh, what a day! I might not even get that damn coffee until probably like later on the day when I'm just running errands, because I have to go up to the market to go and pick up some water. Because every 2 days we run out because they just drink all of it up. This is them. Oh, and the worst part is during the summer where they'll drink upward. You have some of them will drink upwards of like five, six, 7 bottles in one day. It's really insane. Uh, and they mostly are wasting it. Like, what they do is they'll put some in the refrigerator, and then after they're finished being in there, they'll take them out and just and like with me, I always finish one. Like, if I pull one out, I usually finish it within half an hour or even shorter amounts of time. They'll drink about a fourth of it, half of it, and then just leave it there. And then when it gets warm, instead of just sticking it back in the refrigerator or the freezer to make it cold again, they just go grab another one. It's really dumb and wasteful, but the problem is, since these people don't pay for this stuff, they don't care. You know, let's just yeah, it's all just a waste. But this is the era of waste, so I shouldn't be too surprised. I guess that's par for the course. Just another example of all the insanity, huh? No, I'm not. I'm never surprised by this stuff. There's always little like weird things happening. The way that people act, the things that they request or expect you to do, it's not normal, man. I'm thinking if I were to try to stream on Monday, would I be able to do it without interruption? Um, Even though I have the day off, I don't know if this other person is going to go to work or not. If they don't go to work, it's going to be harder to stream. Uh, so I guess I'm praying that they do. They like to dodge, going, but I guess we'll see. Yeah, I'm just trying to think what else is necessary to get here. Oh, these are going to be some interesting couple of days. I can say that. Uh, Trying to finish that video. Script is mostly done, and there's some other stuff on the horizon. Some things I'm not going to script. Some things I can just talk off the cuff. Man, I feel so wiped out. I don't. I'm trying to stay awake. Let me stop leaning back in this chair. Oh, boy, there we go. I'm trying as hard as I can. I do this out of love for the whole side of YT because man, I when you attempt to keep a schedule going after having some other thing that comes on top of it, it's not easy. Mm. Oh boy. I just keep thinking about starting the Nixon documentary. That's going to be so interesting because it's like three books already that I have that would form like the basis for the first maybe like three, four, five parts, and then uh, after that, there's another book I would use or at least try to like go through just to see if I get some information from it. Then I would rely on a lot of print sources. It's crazy with a documentary, you gotta have at least six books on somebody to do it. In most cases, print sources can suffice. I just prefer to have the option to read a biography because most people don't have them written about them, so it's not easy to just expect stuff to be there. Only thing I can say is for Johnson Part 6, I do want at least one drawing of him and Bobby Baker because so much of that scandal that Johnson had with Baker was like it's such a central part of the video. Like I'd say there's a solid seventh of the video on that. Maybe I'd have to look at the whole script, but it's important. I'm getting to the point where I know all of Johnson's George Reedy, Walter Jenkins, all the whole crew, Bill Moyers. Or was it Ayers? No, like I said, it's him, then like some mixture of FDR or Nixon and Carter. And if we wanted to go further down, it would be Truman and Eisenhower. I'm uh, I'm trying as hard as I can. I tell you. So hopefully I can finish it within the next few days. If it takes longer than that, I'm just gonna try. That's all I can say. I'm just gonna try. That's the only thing I can do. So that being said, I'm tired as hell. I've waited an hour for somebody to show up. They haven't, but it is what it is. I don't regret at least trying today. Thanks for showing up. And I'll try to see about Monday. Don't hold me to it because I don't know what kind of weird stuff is going to happen. But have a good rest of your day. All right, yeah, of your Saturday and your weekend.